Welcome to Mentor Conversations at SCORE Houston, where we bring you insights and stories from our mentors. You'll hear from senior executives, entrepreneurs, and professionals who volunteer their time to guide small businesses. SCORE is America's largest network of volunteer business mentors and is supported by the U.S. Small Business Administration. In Houston, we provide free, confidential mentoring and education to help entrepreneurs start, grow, and succeed. Now, let's dive into today's mentor conversation.
Welcome to this podcast from SCORE. My name is Murali, and I'm going to be talking to Bill Horwitz today, who has been mentoring a number of clients for the last 7 years with SCORE. Bill has over 40 years of experience in industry in various roles in organizations like Arthur Andersen, Houston Natural Gas, Enron, EM Tech LLC, Randall and Dewey, and Sanska. He's got wide experience in the areas of construction and asset management, and he's been volunteering since 2018 with both SCORE and AARP Foundation, and has been mentoring entrepreneurs and guiding them to achieve the right outcomes. Bill does provide mentoring both in English and Spanish. Thanks, Bill, for joining today. When you reflect on your career, what stands out most for you?
I grew up in a family business. My parents had a shop where I grew up, and me and my other three siblings, we started at an early age helping out in their business. I think for me, that's been a theme throughout my career is I always understood business from the standpoint of the owners and had the perspective of thinking not only what we did day to day, but how we're going to get to next week and next month and so forth. And taking care of your employees and customers and all that was part of that. As I did my career, and my career involved working for both large companies and international companies, as well as some startup companies, I just had the perspective I think that I grew up with, which was think like an owner, think about where you're headed and why you're doing it. And along the way, of course, learned a lot of lessons by making plenty of mistakes. I'm still learning, so that's part of the fun of it.
Great, Bill. And what kind of advice would you give to young members in your family and others who are starting out?
Well, we think business is having your own business is one option of many for going through your career and your life. And I think there's always hard decisions you need to make, and sometimes trade-offs, and how do you find balance? I think since any endeavor worth the effort you put in, commitment you make, it takes a lot of time and commitment. And so be sure that this is something you really want to do. Being an entrepreneur, I think, is true in my case. It's not for everybody. But if that's what you want to do, then work hard at it. Expect to make some mistakes along the way. Look for help wherever you can, like with SCORE and other resources. Do it as best you can and work as hard as you can on it.
Thanks a lot, Bill. What drew you to SCORE? What was your motivation to start mentoring?
So it's interesting that actually I was a SCORE client almost 20 years before I became a SCORE volunteer. And it was with a startup company that I was involved with. And SCORE gave me some insight into things back then. And then when I had the chance later on in my career when I was retiring and I was looking at other ways to give back to the community, SCORE naturally was one of those things that popped up, and I decided to see if they would take me in.
Excellent. And what was the moment that you felt that this is why I joined SCORE? And what wowed you when you joined SCORE?
Well, one thing about it is just the other SCORE volunteers, the variety of their experiences, their backgrounds, the different cultures they come from, different professions and expertise that they have. For me, I consider myself not a specialist, but a generalist, and look at sort of the big picture when I'm looking at business. But we have among our volunteers some specialists, subject matter experts, we call them, who just know those subjects very deeply, and from whom I'm constantly learning new things and wanting to learn new things and wanting to offer to the community that we're trying to help both my perspective and the perspective of my many colleagues in SCORE who have the depth in those subjects that can help our clients in the moment.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, what are your observations about small businesses in Houston or Texas today and how SCORE can actually help them?
I have the impression that Texas is one of the most friendly states and regulatory environments in which to try to start a new business. I think the rules and hurdles one has to go through, permitting, licensing, et cetera, are relatively set for obtainably in the Texas market. And for that reason, there's a lot of small businesses in Texas, and especially in Houston. And what's interesting about that is Houston is known for some very big industries. The energy sector, for example, high tech, the hospital system, NASA. Yet, amongst all those big companies, there's room for a variety of services and products that can be supplied by small business owners. Everything from, food services to cleaning services to transportation, you name it. And as a result, there's lots of demand for small businesses that have the ability to serve these industries, and opportunity to find a niche and find an audience for whatever it is that you specialize in. And so I think it's an environment I don't know if it's unique, but it's very attractive. And so we see a lot of startups in Houston, and we at SCORE, I guess, have the pleasure of being, in some cases, a participant in helping those startups gain the information they need to have a chance of succeeding.
Okay, in 2025, where do you see the big opportunities in our area?
That's probably not my best area to comment on because I'm not necessarily following industry trends. I would say I'd leave that to my clients to tell me what it is that they see as an opportunity. I do ask them what drives them and what are the opportunities they see and why they think that'll be successful. And they're convinced of it, and they think that our services and the insights we can provide them are useful to them, then we're certainly willing to help if we can.
Thank you, Bill. You've worked with a number of clients in the past. What has been your experience like so far working with these clients? And how do they take this mentoring and how do they benefit from it?
We're a free service, which is very attractive, of course, to a business that's trying to get started and doesn't have a lot of resources. But the clients are the drivers of their project, their mission. We're just one of many resources that hopefully they'll take advantage of. And I guess what we'll try to do is see where they are in their journey, what it is that organizations like ours can help them with like mentoring or workshops that we offer, or the resources that we have on our website, for example. But then there's other resources in the community that I try to stay aware of to be able to guide my clients to also pursue other sources that could help them in what they're trying to do. And that could be associated with the government, that could be associated with different organizations like chambers of commerce that exist and that create opportunities for the small business community to increase their networks, increase their reach, learn who their competition is, learn what else is out there. Then in our case, it's just see if we can continue to support them, not only at the beginning, but as they move along that journey in their business from the beginning to whenever they decide to exit that business, in which case we can also help them with how do you go about exiting passing that on to someone, say, in your family or someone else in the community.
Thanks, Bill. As part of your mentoring experience, you've had any memorable cases or learnings that you would like to share?
Sure, I feel like I learn something new from almost every client. Sometimes it's a revelation I'm really pleased with. Sometimes I'm not so happy with what I didn't know. I don't have any particular examples to give you. I've been involved, grateful for the opportunity to see businesses come up from just an idea to actually be put into existence, to those who are growing, to those who then decide they want to go on and, say, sell the business or merge with another business. And given the background I've had in my own business career, it's gratifying to be able to pass along some tips that we have learned along the way that will help these individual clients, case by case, get to the next step and wherever they're trying to go.
Thanks, Bill. What do you think makes a mentoring relationship successful?
My approach is to try to ask a lot of questions, find out what it is that the clients, where they are, what they've learned themselves, where they feel they have gaps that we can provide support, be open to the ideas and the changes that are going on. We're in a business world that's constantly evolving and changing. Both our clients and ourselves as mentors, we need to try to keep up. And so that's a joint effort. I think while we're doing that, we're learning from our clients, as I said, almost every day, things that they're encountering that we need to know more about as well, and we can help research and support them.
Thanks, Bill. In terms of advice to aspiring entrepreneurs, if someone is thinking to starting a business in Houston, what would you tell them? How do they take ownership for this and run with it and make it successful?
Yeah, so first, I think it's take advantage of organizations like SCORE. Get yourself a mentor as early as you're thinking about it, because I think the earlier that the mentor gets involved, it's not that they will avoid making mistakes, but hopefully we'll be able to guide them to at least the best practices that we're aware of and the information available to them for the place they are in starting that business. So having a mentor is a good step. As I said, there's other resources around that can provide that, but SCORE is certainly one. Don't hesitate to talk to friends and family, particularly those who've had other experiences in that industry or in that type of a business. So get help wherever you can, and then also take time to do the homework, do the studies, try to understand as best you can where you are, where the customers are, where the competition is, so that when you get started because it's a large, as we talked about earlier, it's a large commitment, huge commitment of time and potentially lots of money of your funds and those of your family committed to this. You want to get as thorough an understanding as you can to be able to confront with preparation and confidence those challenges that will be coming your way. And so, yes, that's to be aware of those challenges and to be aware of potential risks and to understand what some ways to confront those, be prepared for those is obviously very helpful. And that's why a mentor who's down the road, perhaps in your shoes, gives you the best chance of taking that on, the best chance of success.
Thank you. Any watch out or words of encouragement for the budding entrepreneurs?
Well, always give it 100%. Always be humble that you are going to be learning, you're going to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to ask for help along the way. And if it's your passion, then you've got the energy, you'll have the energy to go through some of those challenges and get to the other side. If it's not a passion, then it's time to perhaps reconsider whether that's the direction you really want to go. And I think we try to be honest with our clients in that discussion, as well as self-discovery of whether where they're going and what they're trying to do is really what they want and need to do. And perhaps not our role to help make that decision, but at least ask those questions and be sure that they're thinking about them.
Thanks, Bill. How has mentoring enriched your own life or professional journey?
So as you mentioned in the front end, I was in my career for over 40 years. And I feel like I started my career somewhat late because I seemed to be a perpetual student before I became in business. I was a working student because I always had jobs along the way. But so at this stage of life, I'm retired, and I'm doing the volunteer activities I have, like SCORE, basically to give back somewhat from what I received over my career, the help I'd received along the way, give back to that same community that helped me, and to help others along the way. And with that, as I said, I'm constantly learning new things, and to me, that's very valuable. It's what I really enjoy about doing this.
Thanks a lot, Bill.
Thanks for listening to Mentor Conversations at SCORE Houston. If you're an entrepreneur or small business owner, we'd love to support your journey. You can reach us at 713-487-6565 or visit us at 8701 South Gessner, Suite 1200, Houston, Texas 77074. Our office is open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., except for federal holidays. Walk-ins are always welcome. To learn more, to request free mentoring, or to register for workshops, visit us online at score.org/Houston. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, at SCORE, we're here to help you thrive.